shores of old Lake Erie stands our alma mater true. Fredonia state we proudly honor, with its colors white and blue.
Hi, I am Jack Croxton, and welcome to today's podcast. I came to the college here in 1979 and had a very rewarding 40-year career here. Once I retired, I thought, well, what do I want to do now? And I began to think about my career and all of the wonderful students that I'd have had a chance to interact with here. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to try to catch up with some alumni, find out what they're doing today, and give them a chance to think back on their undergraduate career here. So I came up with the idea of a podcast called Reflections of Fredonia, and we are having a good time now interviewing our alumni. We do our recording right here at the SUNY Fredonia radio system, a Fredonia student-run radio station.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chloe Kowalik. I graduated from Fredonia in May of 2024, although now I have a little bit of news, so things are going to sound a little different for my intro. So when I first studied here, I double majored in journalism and psychology, and I had minors in English and political science. But now I applied for the licensed mental health counseling program here, and I got accepted. So now I'm in a weird, kind of an alum, kind of going back. So I'll be returning in fall 2025. So that's kind of where I'm at. I just loved it so much. I couldn't stop.
For today's podcast, we have two very special guests. So Todd, we'll have you go first. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself by telling us your name and which year you graduated from Fredonia.
My name is Todd Broady, and I started in 1981, graduated in 86. I did the 5-year plan.
Awesome. So, Greg, why don't you go ahead and go next?
Sure. Greg Harvey. I was here from 1982, graduated in 1986.
So what did you guys study while you were here at Fredonia?
So I nodded to Todd, and he pointed at me, so I'll go. So I was a communication media major, business minor, and I focused solely on radio and was involved at WCVF the 4 years that I was here. On-air shifts on the AM and the FM, did a little stint as production director, music librarian, and then was chief engineer for my final 2 years here.
I was a communication media major. I started off in the program, though, in 1981. It was not a major yet. It was in the BAS program, Bachelor Arts of Special Studies. And the next year, it became a major. So I was grandfathered in. I didn't have to take a lot of the classes like comm theory and stuff like that. But I was a journalism minor with a concentration in radio production. So yeah, and I worked at the radio station all 4 years as well. I was never on the board. I just did AM radio. I did not one shift on the FM. People kind of weird. And worked in engineering with Greg the last couple of years as the finger quote assistant chief engineer. But yeah, I had a great time here for 5 years.
Absolutely. Great. So how did you guys, because we know a lot of students who come to Fredonia, they kind of all end up here in different ways. And that's definitely something that we've discovered doing our podcast. We've had some people that chose it because it was the furthest SUNY school away from where they live. We've had some people that grew up in the area and just love it here. So kind of how did you guys end up wanting to come to Fredonia?
Well, I lived really close.
So you're on that end of it, yeah.
I was a Chautauqua County resident. I lived 45 minutes away down in Lakewood. And I knew about the communication department up here, even though as Todd pointed out, it wasn't a major until I started here. But they still had a really robust communication department of some sort leading up to that. And my dad also, he was a public school teacher in Chautauqua County, and he took graduate classes here. And so sometimes I would come up here with him and see the campus. And I also got involved with theater up here. When I was in high school, we would come up to see a lot of musicals and plays. And so I was very familiar with the campus already and felt very comfortable. And it was certainly far enough away. It's not like some of our friends that came up here from Long Island.
Yep.
We're 400 or so miles away, whatever that is. But it was definitely far enough away. I was on my own, but close enough to get home if I needed to, whatever. But definitely enjoyed my time here.
And for me, my dad got transferred around in his job quite a bit, and we ended up outside of Rochester. And I knew about Fredonia. I had applied to Geneseo in Fredonia. Geneseo I did not get into. Fredonia accepted me, and I'm a big believer in fate, and this is where I was supposed to be. And thank God I did. I some of my best friends on the planet, like Greg and another guy we were talking about earlier, Kevin Devine. I've known my best friend since for 40 some years now, and I found this place, and this is radio is all I've ever wanted to do. I've never had any thoughts of, well, I'm going to go into accounting or this. It's like this is, if you look at my high school yearbook, it pretty much says where I'm going to work, and I've worked at both radio stations I said I was going to work at.
Oh, wow.
over the years. So I'm very fortunate in that, and so I'm this place kind of helped groom me with that, with the likes of our professor Dan Berggren and John Malcolm and various other people, Ted Schwalbe, have really groomed us and helped us with our careers all along the way. And it was fate to be here, and even to this day, coming in teaching. I do teach a class once in a while in the communication department. I'm an adjunct, and so I love that part of it too.
Well, it sounds like both of you made a very wise choice in electing to come to Fredonia.
Yeah, oh yeah, I never regretted that.
No, not at all.
So, do you two have any favorite memories or experiences from the time you were a student here?
Can we talk about that?
Well, I was going to say, now
Well,
keep in
okay.
mind, this is G-rated.
This is true.
Well, I have no comment. No.
I loved being here at the onset of High Noon Friday. That was really cool, and we had some pretty outstanding guests. Members of 10,000 Maniacs would come in through. Ralph Nader came through one time. The planting of the radio tree
Yes.
in our senior
Yep.
semester, burying a microphone live on the air. That stands out. The dance marathons, when we would actually foolishly take the equipment out of the AM booth and build an AM radio booth.
We didn't know any better.
Yeah,
We just did it. Yeah.
over in the campus center, Williams Center, whatever it's called now. And doing the 24-hour dance marathon, and then having to reassemble the gear back in the what was the AM booth at that time. That was a good memory and a lesson in don't ever do this again.
Right.
Yeah. Is that Super Dance you're talking about? Where it was like the fundraiser?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Super Dance now. I think they just called it Dance Marathon back then.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Were you there for the whole 24 hours?
Almost, yeah.
Close.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough to stay because we were awake, a good 12 hours before that started. So I did go to my apartment for a little while, took a nap, and came back because I knew we had to put stuff back together and had to be cognizant of that. The other thing was like sports broadcasting. Todd did a lot of that from a play-by-play standpoint.
Yep. I did Blue Devil basketball when at that time, back in that time frame, we had a really good Division III team. I mean, ranked. I mean, they were that good. And one Christmas, this stands out to me, we actually played Purdue University, the Boilermakers from the Big Ten. They have a Division III school going in there. And we couldn't go with the team, and Greg Prechtel, the then basketball coach and the former athletic director, who's retired now, said I would take you if I could, but I can't. So a buddy of ours, Bill Fleckenstein, his dad had an RV. So we all piled into the RV and went to West Lafayette, Indiana, and walking into Mackey Arena was like that scene in Hoosiers when they're at the very end of the, you've seen the movie when they walk in the big, the big arena. That's what it felt like. From Steel Hall to Mackey Arena was unbelievable. And we called the game. The head coach at that time, Gene Cady, came up and talked to us on the radio. He was such a kind man, and because he understood student radio, he got it, And Fredonia lost by 20, which is not too bad against a Division I powerhouse, And he was not happy, So, but that stands out to me. I did that quite often, basketball games.
Being in their arena,
Right.
a lot different because the Blue Devils were playing in Dodds Hall.
Right.
Right.
No, Steel Hall.
They were
they
in
were
Steel
in
at that
Steel
point.
Hall. at
Steel
that
opened in
point.
'81. Yeah.
Yeah, brand new.
Okay.
Brand spanking new.
And then soccer nationals, right?
We went down to Fredonia Soccer was in the Final Four for Division III national championships. We played in Greensboro, North Carolina. We couldn't broadcast the game per NCAA rules, but we went down. About 4 or 5 of us road tripped it down to Greensboro, and I would phone reports back as the game was going on. So tried to do our best to cover that because they've always had good soccer teams here, and that particular year was amazing.
I have to say, Hoosiers was one of my all-time favorite movies.
Mine too. I'm from Indiana originally, so it is mine. Yeah.
Oh, me too.
Right.
I grew up in Angola, Indiana, in the northeast corner.
No, I'm southern Indiana, Scottsburg, small little town in the middle of nowhere, right on I-65.
Okay,
Yeah.
Angola's right on the toll road,
Right.
going across the state.
Right.
So we know that you both had connections to Fredonia Radio, as you've discussed. So I was kind of just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what the station looked like while you guys were students here.
Well, when we were here, it was located in Gregory Hall, and it had moved there maybe 10 years prior to us getting there from Fenton.
Fenton, yes,
Fenton
President,
Hall.
where the President's building is.
So it was a cool layout. The FM booth was super tiny. It was like a phone booth, if you can remember what a phone booth looks like. It was a shoebox, we'll call it, but it was super intimate. We had mood lighting in there, not like you guys have here now with the LED strips, which is really cool. And then we had a production studio, and then on the other side of that was an AM studio, and then we had a small live studio like we're in right now, Graham Command, although ours was also doubled as the back office.
Program directors' offices, music directors, and
Yeah.
Oh,
news.
wow.
Yeah, so it was where, if you walk in Gregory, it's where the public safety office is now.
Oh, okay.
Or the
Yeah,
police,
yeah.
Fredonia Police.
That's so cool.
And there was, of course, broadcast windows between all the studios, so you could see through to everybody. And it was a very cool, intimate space. Really enjoyed being there. Although when the station moved here to McEwen, I was not sad about it because the facilities here are great. Really enjoy coming here.
Well, back in the day, we wanted to be in Williams Center,
Right.
but we could never get 24-hour access.
Oh, that's still a problem today.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let us have it, so
Yep.
we should have been in there, beyond on the second floor or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's where the Leader is, the
Right.
student newspaper.
Right.
And even still, we have issues when, we're working late putting the paper together.
Right.
And, we can't have card access after 4 p.m. So
Wow.
definitely makes it challenging.
Yep.
So, yep.
That's the same way at Buff State currently right now.
Yeah,
So I say it's
yep.
everywhere.
Yeah, no, it's not just a Fredonia thing.
Must be a SUNY issue.
Oh, yeah.
Todd, we know you've had an extensive career in radio and still involved here as an adjunct professor as well. So give us a little synopsis of your career.
Well, when I graduated, I left with my then girlfriend, Laura Totten, and she was going to D.C. to intern at WMAL Radio, big AM radio station down there. And I followed her down there and thought, well, I'll apply at all these Washington, D.C. markets, blah, blah. That never happened. Thank God. I would have embarrassed myself, But I got a call from my friend Kevin Devine, who went to school here, said they're changing 104 in Buffalo to rock and roll. And he said, you might want to make a call to Jim Pastrick, the guy that Greg and I interned with. So I made the call, and he says, I got weekends I got part-time weekends. If you want to come back home. So I moved for a part-time job. But at that time, Buffalo was the 35th market in the country, and I said, I can't turn that down,
Oh, yeah.
And I've been and that's 1986, and I've been there ever since. I worked at 104, then moved over to 97 Rock for 4 years, where I did small on air, but I was assistant production director. And then I got the opportunity to move to be actual production director at WBEN and Q102 at the time. And I took that immediately because it meant I got more money, but it was my shop. I was the guy making all the commercials and imaging and everything for that season. I've been there for the last 31 years. So, and it's very unradio like when you think of most radio, you're very transient. But I always realized that being a disc jockey, being on the air, those guys are come and go. I've seen people come and go on air, morning guys, afternoon drive guys, evening guys come and go. But one thing I realized when I went to BEN and Star was the fact that they'll always need commercials, no matter what format they change a radio station to. I've done commercials for every format you can think of, but I'm pretty much the one constant that's been at that radio station for the last 31 years.
Wow.
And it's and you just got to be very flexible, and you got to be able to do multiple things. Imaging is different than commercials.
Sure, sounds like it's
been
it's
been a very great career. I've got some good friends, and very very fortunate to work with some some amazing broadcasters. And I'm not talking about just in Buffalo or West New York. I'm talking nationally. You know, guys like Sandy Beach, you know, who's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, Danny Neverth. You know, I mean, I've worked with all of these guys. Stan Roberts. You know, and then the list goes. Van Miller. You know, the great guy from Van Miller from Dunkirk. You know, I worked at DOE in Dunkirk. John Murphy. You know, I worked with some great broadcasters, and then, you know, and I think back on that. It's like that's pretty heady stuff.
How lucky were we?
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, seriously, I mean, you too. You know.
Yep.
Yeah, actually jumping right off of that. So, Greg, same for you. You've also had a pretty extensive career in audio, and you also work here at FRS. So, tell us a little bit about what your career has looked like.
Well, I learned or discovered early on, being here as a student, that being an on-air personality was not where I was going to be. Even though that's pretty much what I came here for. I wanted to be a disc jockey, play music and what have you. And really early on, I realized, no, this is not for me. I don't want to do this. But I love the medium of radio so much that I slid over to the technical side, which I really wasn't qualified for from a electronic standpoint. But I picked it up along the way. And did okay with that. Graduated from here, went to work for a broadcast engineering contract engineering firm in Buffalo for 4 years, and we handled 45 radio stations from Erie, PA to Ogdensburg, New York. Spent a lot of time driving between locations, more so than on site.
And I worked with him too.
That's right.
When I first came back to Buffalo, when I was in D.C., I got a part-time job working for this communications company, as well as working for Ted's Hot Dogs, and well as working for the radio station. So
Ted's
you do what you got to do, right?
That's right.
Yes.
So then I got the opportunity. So Todd had moved over to 97 Rock and GR as assistant production director, and in 1989, I guess the Bills or the WGR secured the rights to the Bills broadcast. And so they were looking to hire an additional engineer. And so I got hired there in 1990, and that just happened to coincide with the 4 Super Bowl years. And so I was there for 4 years and got to work at 2 of them. I worked the Minneapolis Super Bowl and the Atlanta Super Bowl, 26 and 28, which it's still kind of a blur because, especially in Minneapolis, was the 2-hour time difference. And so I'd be getting up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning their time to get our Buffalo morning show on the air from a little mezzanine area in the team hotel. So it was kind of blurry, and by the time the game was over, which they got blown out, I was ready to come home. But it was a pretty cool experience. And then the rights to the Bills broadcast went to WBEN for 4 years, and I took that as an opportunity to slide out of radio engineering full-time for a while because it was kind of burning me out after 8 years. You're on call 24/7, 50 weeks out of the year. And if you don't go somewhere on vacation, they'll find you and they'll drag you in. And then I got involved in doing what's known as professional audio, pro audio. I worked for companies that built home theaters and recording studios and did sound systems for schools and churches and businesses. And when that company went out of business, I went out and did that on my own, which I've been doing for 25 years. But along with that, 1998, 97 Rock got the rights to broadcast the Bills games, and they hired me and former chief engineer here at WCVF, Doug Wolf. He was the producer, executive producer of the Bills broadcast during the Super Bowl years. And so 97 Rock hired the 2 of us to produce the broadcasts. And so we did that for 15 years with 97 Rock, and then WGR, which had separated from 97 Rock years earlier than that, picked up the rights in 2012, and they pulled Doug and me along with them, and then Doug decided to retire, and so in 2013, I became executive producer of the Buffalo Bills broadcast, which is just one of the many things that I do. I still do the church sound and school sounds, and became chief engineer here at WCVR, Fredonia Radio Systems, in October of 2024, which is very cool. And I also handle WBNY at Buff State and WLVL in Lockport.
Anything else?
I was trying to really synopsize. It was a dark and stormy night. So that's what I've been doing.
Very busy, both of you.
Yeah.
Very busy careers.
But in 2016, I started working with Greg on the Bills broadcast.
Yeah.
So, I travel with him on home road games, every home game. Our job includes we're on the team charter, and we set the broadcast up and tear it down and make them sound good, make John Murphy sound good, and Chris Brown now, Eric Wood, and those guys.
Yep.
Make them sound good.
For sure.
That's awesome.
And
Very
that's
important.
something that that's. I told Greg a long time ago when I first started doing it, I said we cannot take this for granted because this could end tomorrow.
At any moment,
Yeah.
At any moment, they could pull the plug on us and whatever. But
Yep.
so we're one of 32 broadcast crews in the country being able to do this. So I mean,
Wow.
it's pretty cool.
Sounds like a dream job.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Sometimes it's a nightmare.
Yeah, it can be.
Of course.
Right.
Especially games like
Wow.
13 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh.
Yep.
Or when equipment goes down, it's like, oh crap.
Yeah, now what?
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but could each of you think of one story you'd like to share about that you've had while you in your careers? It's kind of a fun story or
Fun
somebody
memory.
you worked with or
Highlight.
yeah.
Boy, I can come up with a lot. During the Super Bowl years, we used to do live Jim Kelly show on Mondays and Fridays from his house.
Oh.
So
wow.
we had what's known as a 15K scene line. So it was a dedicated circuit from his house to the radio stations. And so I would go there. Doug Wolf first started doing it and then passed it on to me. And so we'd go there in the mornings, and the front door would be unlocked, and we'd walk in the house and go in the kitchen and open up a drawer and pull out a Shure microphone mixer and a microphone and set it up on the kitchen table. And we used a boom box for a monitor so he could hear the folks back at the station asking their questions and what have you. And on one occasion, my wife, Jody, who was business manager here at WCVF back in the day, she was working full-time at Tops Wilson Farms as a trainer, and she would do management training. And so she had this big training thing to do in Batavia. And our youngest, or oldest, and only kid at that point, would need to go to daycare. And both Jody and I needed to leave before the daycare opened. So I'm like, well, I'll take her with me. So I took her with me to Jim Kelly's house. And
How old was she?
she was probably 6-7 months old at this point. And you're probably aware of this, but babies, they need their diapers changed occasionally. And it just so happened that she needed a diaper changed, and so I just took her into Jim Kelly's living room and plopped her down on the couch and changed her diaper. And I don't think he was none the wiser.
That's so funny.
Funny.
I'm trying to think of something, but I just, going back to some of the Bills broadcasts, and even the day before when we do setup, like we'll fly in on a Saturday before a Sunday game, and then we'll go to a stadium. And we walk into stadiums on Saturday, and we can walk around these buildings with impunity. There's no security guards looking at you, wondering what you're doing, looking for credentials, none of that stuff. We were in Cincinnati, left the broadcast. I had a family that was picking us up for dinner. We had to get to the other side of the stadium. We literally walked out, walked down, climbed over the wall, onto the field, crossed the field, up and out, and found doors that would actually let us out. Because I don't think there was a soul in that building.
No,
Wow.
it was like abandoned.
It was abandoned. This is it's city, the stadium right downtown Cincinnati on the Ohio River, and it was just like nobody.
Wow.
It was crazy. And it was like, and the next day, these stadiums like Fort Knox, where every 10 feet they want to see a credential. Where are you going? Who are you with? And it's like it's nuts.
Right.
So
So you had the stadium to yourself.
stadium
at
to
one
ourselves. Not even kidding you.
What a dream.
But sometimes though we get up there and our doors are locked. Our visiting radio booth is locked, and we got to hope to God somebody's in the building that will let us in.
Right.
Or we just wasted our time. We
Right.
could be out drinking. Besides that,
Right, for sure. So, how do you two feel that your time at Fredonia helped to shape your career and where you are today?
Oh, totally did. The whole atmosphere here, as far as the radio stations being student run, of course they're overseen by faculty advisors, but our advisor Dan Bergen was just outstanding in that he was always there, but he wasn't in your face. He was always there if you needed help to answer questions, and he would offer suggestions. And some of the lessons in time management, event planning, I learned from him. The fact that we as students in varying ages from 18 to 22 as students, and then the community members that were older in their 30s and some in their 40s that were part of the station. We were such a collective. How many people on staff at that point? Maybe 90 between the two
We
stations?
had a lot.
Wow.
We were one of the largest groups on campus
Wow.
by far.
And we all got along, and we all had common visions, and worked well together to achieve the goal of putting out a good product on the air, whether it was the FM over the air or the AM carrier current station. We were also on cable in Dunkirk and Fredonia. That just gave us such a sense of autonomy and really built up our self-esteem, almost detrimentally, because then in my first job, I would just go ahead and do things like sign for packages and open them up. And you can't do that. It's like, well, geez, I did. I took care of $50,000 worth of gear at the college radio station. I can
Yeah.
certainly open up this box without any problem. But it really did help to launch me into the professional career that I chose or fell into, or whatever the case may be, without, I guess, with confidence is really what I'm getting at. A lot of confidence.
Yeah, and for me, it was in this place, kind of you were doing everything, and if we did something wrong, we learned from that. When we're talking about Dan Bergman, he would. If we had a question about something legal, can we do this or can we not do this? He said, well, I'll check around and see, or whatever. But it was ours, and we didn't take that for granted. On the AM side, back then it was AM 600, now it's DVL. We tried to run that as professionally as we possibly could and knew how. And we really had it. We had clocks for music, and we had rotations for the music. The FM was a little different. It was your classic college radio station, playing the new music up and coming, all the stuff from Europe that was just coming out in the States, what have you. But when I got to my first, when I walked into 104, at that, and we were in the Hilton Hotel, a lot of it looked very familiar. A lot of it looked very different because it was really professionally run,
Right.
And there's something you could not do there that we could do in our building, But still, I felt like I knew what I was doing. When I came into the professional world, I knew what I was doing. I wasn't like a deer caught in headlights walking into a radio station.
Yeah, we've done that before. Oh,
Right. It's no different, whether it's college radio or top 35 #1 hit music station. It's exactly the same.
Yeah. Take this remote truck out to a car dealership and set up a remote. Oh, well, we did that here at Fredonia. We set up remotes down in the square.
And I know there's some colleges that don't do that. The radio stations are more professionally run than they are student run. The kids don't have a chance to do some things, But we were not like that at all. And the same way here, you guys now, are left. You can run this place the way you see fit, as long as it's run certain FCC guidelines, and you're running it as professionally as you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds like you were able to hit the ground running.
Yeah,
We did, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. I mean, we had a lot of learning to do. I'm still learning
Oh,
about
yeah.
stuff.
Of course.
Learn every
The
day.
industry changes constantly right now, but we were very well prepared coming out of Fredonia.
Amazing. So what advice would you guys offer for current Fredonia students?
I mean, radio students or FRS or
It's up to you. You can, if you want to kind of base it more radio, you
well,
can do that.
I will tell you, working in the industry and internships are increasingly rare, unfortunately. It's been a long time since I've had an intern, and I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that we're required to pay them now. And I didn't get paid for my internship. Greg didn't get paid for his internship.
Nope. In fact, we had to pay for parking.
You kidding me? No kidding. I couldn't wait to go do my internship and do it for nothing.
Right.
And drive to Fredonia, drive to Buffalo, And so, get out and do something while you're here, get an internship, find out where you can go, what you can do. Because if you don't have something under your belt, it's very hard, especially in today's economic climate. It's very hard.
For sure.
One of my biggest regrets is I never took a single television class when I was here. That was so short-sighted on my part.
I did.
Because I was like, oh, I'm going to be in radio. I'm radio.
I dropped it.
Did you? I took journalism classes and business classes. Never took a TV class. I mentioned earlier how when I was in high school, I was heavily involved in the theater, and I thought, I'm going to go to Fredonia. I'll get involved in the theater program there too. Nope, didn't do a thing there. Mainly because we had so much available to us in radio and radio production and audio production that it did really take up all of our time.
Right.
And I tried to do some other things, join some other campus organizations, and just never lasted long enough because I just was so busy with the radio stations. So my advice is, don't shortchange yourself. Take classes in anything that you think is going to be of interest to you or that might help you professionally. Whether you don't think that's your main track or not, it doesn't matter. Just try to take it. Whether I don't even want to give an example. Whatever that is outside of your track, take it anyway.
Awesome. I love that.
Thank you. That just about does it for our interview today. Todd and Greg, is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap this up?
Boy, there's just so much more that we could talk about.
Oh, my God.
How many hours do you have? Be an editing nightmare, I know.
I know. No, just we're very grateful that you're doing this, and like anybody's listening, and they will be. Take what we've said to heart.
Mm-hmm.
Do what you can.
If you're not a student here and you're listening to this podcast, I greatly encourage you to look at Fredonia and FRS, no doubt. And if you are a student here already, I would come over here and get involved. And if you're already here getting involved, and get involved some more.
I like that.
That's great. Well, thank you both so much for appearing on our podcast today. I am Jack Croxton.
And I'm Chloe Kowalik, and we'll see you in the next podcast.